A lot of foreign buyers come to Spain to see properties and end up going home with more confusion than clarity. They see too many homes and they cover too much ground. They mix different areas, different budgets, and different types of property. And by the end of the trip, everything starts to blur together. So if you are thinking about coming to Costa de la Luz to view properties, this video is for you. Because a good viewing trip should not leave you overwhelmed. It should help you make better decisions. I'm Ricardo Vieira and I help international buyers understand the Costa de la Luz market and make clear property decisions here in southern Spain. And in this video I want to show you how to plan a property viewing trip in a way that actually helps you move forward. Not by rushing through as many homes as possible, but by using the trip to gain clarity, narrow your options and understand what really fits you. So let's start with something simple. What is a viewing trip? A viewing trip is basically a planned trip where you come to visit areas and properties because you are considering a purchase. So this is not just a holiday with a few house viewings squeezed in. And it shouldn't be a marathon of random appointments either. A good viewing trip is not about seeing the highest number of properties. It's about seeing the right things in the right order so that the trip helps you make better choices. And that brings me to one of the biggest mistakes buyers make. They come too early or they come too open. And what do I mean by that? Coming too early means traveling before you have even clarified the basics. You don't yet know which areas make sense for you. You don't have a realistic budget range. You're not clear on the type of property you want. And you haven't defined the real purpose of the purchase. So the trip starts with too many unknowns, too many variables not answered. And when that happens, the trip can become a lot of movement without much real progress. Coming too open means trying to cover too much at once. Too many towns, too many property types, too many price points, too many possibilities. And on paper, that may feel efficient. But in practice, it usually creates noise, nothing else. Because you've seen too many things that don't belong to the same search, your brain starts comparing things that shouldn't even be compared. And then the trip becomes tiring instead of useful. So, before you even book the trip, there are a few things I think you should define first. The first one is the goal of the trip, and this is very important. Are you coming mainly to explore the region? Are you trying to compare 2 or 3 areas? Are you ready to see already filtered properties? Or are you coming because you're much closer to making a decision? Those are very different kinds of trip. If you're still at the beginning, then the goal may simply be to understand the area better. If you are further along, then the goal may be to validate specific options and move closer to a purchase. But if you don't define the goal first, you can easily organize the whole trip the wrong way. The second thing to define is your focus areas. And by that I mean the zones or towns you actually want to concentrate on. In most cases, I would not try to cover all of Costa de la Luz in one short trip. That usually creates more confusion than value. It's much better to focus on 2 or maybe 3 areas at most, depending on how long you have and how clear your search already is. For example, trying to compare Ayamonte, Isla Canela, El Rompido, Chiclana de la Frontera and Novo Santipetri all in one very short trip can become too much very quickly. You may end up with lots of impressions, but very little clarity. The third thing to define is your budget range, not necessarily down to the exact euro, but clearly enough to guide the trip. Because there is no point spending time visiting properties that are clearly below what you want or clearly above what makes sense for you. A realistic budget makes the trip much more focused. The fourth thing is the type of property. Are you looking for an apartment, a townhouse, a detached villa, a new build, a resale property? By resale, I simply mean a home that has already been owned before rather than a newly built one. Do you want something easy to maintain or do you want outdoor space? Do you want to walk to the beach All of these things affect what should and should not go into the trip. And the fifth thing is your non-negotiables. These are the things that really matter to you and that you are not willing to compromise on too easily. For one buyer, that might be being able to walk to shops, cafes, and day-to-day services. You'll sometimes hear the word amenities used for that. Amenities simply means practical everyday things nearby, like supermarkets, restaurants, pharmacies, cafes, and the basic services that make life easier. For someone else, the non-negotiable might be a quiet area, or a low maintenance, or year-round life. And by year-round life, I mean a place that still feels alive and practical outside the main holiday season. So before the trip, I think you should be able to say, this is the purpose of my trip. These are the areas I want to focus on. This is my budget range. This is roughly the kind of property I want. And these are the things I really care about. That alone already makes a huge difference. Now, let's talk about how I would actually structure the trip itself. The first thing I would say is this. Don't try to see too many properties in one day. More is not always better. In fact, after a certain point, more usually becomes worse. Because once you've seen too many homes back to back, they start blending together and you forget what was there. You stop noticing important differences and you begin reacting emotionally instead of clearly. So in most cases, I would rather see 3 or 4 well-chosen properties in a day than 8 or 10 rushed ones. The second thing is this. Whenever possible, see the areas first and the properties second. This is something I strongly believe in, because if you still don't understand how an area feels, then the property can distract you. You may love the house and ignore the fact that the location doesn't really fit you. So before judging the property too quickly, try to understand the setting around it. What does the place feel like? How easy is to move around? What's nearby? Does it feel calm, lively, practical, remote, convenient? That kind of context matters a lot. The third thing is to leave space between visits. Not a huge amount of empty time, but enough breathing room to think. Enough time to make notes, enough time to compare properly, enough time to reset before the next property. If every viewing is back to back with no space in between, the trip can start to feel like a blur. And the fourth thing is something I think many buyers underestimate. Use part of the trip to check real life, not just properties. What do I mean by that? Walk around the area a bit, have a coffee there, look at the streets, notice how the place feels, see what is open, see what daily life might actually be like. Try to imagine not just visiting the property, but using it, living there for a few weeks, spending several months there, arriving for a long weekend, whatever your real goal is. Because buying well is not just about liking a property, it's about seeing whether the whole setup fits your life. And that brings me to something else that matters a lot. What should you look beyond the property itself? Because not everything important is inside a home. You also want to pay attention to access. How easy is to get there? How does the approach feel? What is around it? You want to notice noise, the general atmosphere, the maintenance of the building or urbanization if there is one. And by urbanization, I simply mean a residential development or complex, often with shared areas or a managed environment. You want to notice whether the area feels convenient, whether it feels too seasonal, whether it feels too isolated for the way you want to use the property. If it's a second home, you want to think about how easy it will be to arrive, use it, and leave it again. If it's for longer stays or retirement, you want to think more about daily comfort, services, and how practical the place really is over time. So the property matters, of course, but the context matters too. A lot. And finally, how do you know if the trip has actually been useful? This is important because many people think a good trip should end with an offer. But that's not always true. A good trip can also help you rule things out. It can help you understand that one area feels much better than another. It can show you that your budget needs some adjustments. It can make you realize that the kind of property you thought you wanted is not actually the best fit. All of that is useful. In fact, that kind of clarity can be extremely valuable. Because a good viewing trip is not only about finding the right property, it's also about becoming a better buyer, a clearer buyer, a more focused buyer. So, if you are thinking about planning a property viewing trip in Costa de la Luz, my main advice is this: don't turn it into a race. Don't try to see everything, and don't arrive with no structure. Define the purpose of the trip, narrow down your areas, set a realistic budget. Know roughly what kind of property makes sense for you, and give yourself enough space to assess not just owns but fit. Because the best trips are not the ones where you see the most, they are the ones where you understand the most. If you are planning a trip to Costa de la Luz and want a clearer next step, I've left the main link below. And if you are watching this on TV, just scan the QR code on screen now to continue from your phone. If messaging feels easier, you can also reach me directly on WhatsApp. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao!